Hey everyone, it's Mr. Wagner back with a flipped classroom video. I want to summarize a lot of stuff we've been talking about in class regarding linear relationships, particularly the equations and how they match up with the graphs. So let's take a look at a quick equation. Y equals 2x plus 1. So by now you should recognize that x is independent and y is a dependent variable, but I want to spend a lot of time in this video talking about this 2 here and this one. The 2 is our unit rate or coefficient, and when we go to graph this, we're going to start looking at it as the slope, and that's what a lot of this video is going to be about. Now, I don't want us to forget about this 1, which we've been calling the starting point in class, but as we move on in this video, I want us to start using the mathematical term y-intercept, and you're going to see why we call it that in a little bit. So let's try to graph this. If our starting point is 1, if we go over here, when x is 0, that means y is going to be 1, and I can prove that to you mathematically by plugging in a 0. So if I say y equals 2 times 0 plus 1, 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1, which equals 1. So whenever x is 0, remember this is the x value right here. Whenever x is 0, y is 1. So I go over here, x is 0, y is 1. And then I can also plug in a new value for x and see where that gets us. So let's go up to 1. If I plug in a 1 here, y equals 2 times 1 plus 1. I think you can quickly follow along. We end up with y equals 3. So if I go over to our graph, when x is 1, x on the x-axis, y ends up being 3. Now we have 2 points that we can make our linear graph with. And so I'm just going to sketch this out here. Every time x is going up 1, y is going up 2. And excuse my drawing skills, I'm trying to use this new drawing pad, but this is what the equation of our line would look like. And I want to pay particular attention now to the slope. I said that this would be a big part of this video. And the slope we've talked about in class is the steepness of this line. So I want to define slope for us, how we find it when we have a graph. And slope is going to be rise over run. And if we come over here, what does that mean? What does rise over run mean? Well, on a coordinate grid, y is our up and down axis, and x is our left and right axis. So if we go up 1, 2, and over 1, we hit our next point. So in this problem, we would end up with 2 being our rise and 1 being our run. And what do you notice? If we do 2 divided by 1, we're left with 2. Where did we see that before? Oh, wait. It's up here. It's our unit rate. That is what is happening in this equation. Every time x is going up 1, y is going up 2. And this continues over and over again. The rise is 1, and the run is 2. And so you kind of get this stair pattern in our graph, which is why we end up with this linear relationship. The last thing I want to talk about in this video, we've talked about this week, and that's the y-intercept, our starting point. Our y-intercept is where this line crosses the y-axis. So now you have 2 ways to think about the y-intercept. The first way is what happens when x is 0? Well, y is 1. Now what does that look like in our graph? Well, that's exactly where the line crosses the y-axis, right at 1. And so in math terms, you might see this in the book, you might see it online, but a very common way that you'll see this equation for a linear relationship is you'll see it in this form: y equals mx plus b. Like, Mr. Wagner, what is this? Where does m come from? Where does b come from? All it's saying is that the slope is m and the y-intercept is b. So every linear equation can be written in this form. And as you move on to algebra, you'll see that there's some other forms that we can put this equation into, but this is the most common form you're going to be seeing this year, and this is called slope-intercept form because we get our slope right here with m, and we get our y-intercept here with b. So I'm going to just color code these. Our slope is m, right? And our y-intercept we used was green, so our y-intercept is b. So all of our linear equations and graphs can be put into this form, and that's about it. We've seen this a lot in the different problems we've been doing this week. The word problems looking at the race between walking rates and also with Mighty T shirts versus the no shrink t-shirts. So look back over your notes, look back over what we've done this week, and see how if you can find the y-intercept in the slope in all of these different scenarios. So I hope this helped out. I hope it is a good summary, and I will see you guys in class Monday. Thank you.